Hi, my name is Marion Warren. My partner is Angela Davidson, and we're going to be talking about self-management. So the purpose behind self-management, or the why, is that first of all, self-management is an important skill to have, especially since independence is so highly valued in our society today. Generally, independence is seen as being self-aware of behavior and being accountable for that behavior. It's important to be able to know how to live within the social norm and observe behaviors that are appropriate in each respective setting. We're going to watch a video about what self-management is.
When students are aware of their emotions, they are better able to regulate them. They can learn how to manage stress and control their impulses. They are also better able to motivate themselves and work towards their personal and academic goals.
Self-management is not just understanding who you are, but what are you doing with that information? How do you behave? How do you use that information to achieve goals, to work hard towards things? How do you manage your feelings? So we talked about understanding your feelings and self-awareness, but what you do with that anger is about self-management. How do you turn your self-awareness and your feelings and your emotions into positive actions so that you can have agency and advocacy for what you believe? These are all part of self-management and critically important for not just school, but work and life itself.
As adults, as teachers, as parents, we're responsible for helping kids by creating a regulating environment. So for example, in a classroom, it's really important to think about your environment and how you're helping kids regulate. So if you have a chaotic classroom and there's always tons of noise and maybe you have stuff all over the walls and you're not really organized yourself, that might be chaotic to kids. When you walk into your own classroom, do you feel calm? Do you feel regulated? Do your kids come into that classroom feeling safe? Because that's number one. We have so many kids with trauma and they're coming from homes that we can't even imagine what they're going through, and they walk into a classroom already completely feeling dysregulated. So something as simple as greeting each student at the door, smiling, using their name, that helps calm and regulate kids. We know there's...
Okay, so I really liked in that video how it talked a lot about regulating our emotions. I just want you to imagine for a moment you're sitting in class and all of a sudden one of your fellow students gets up and starts overturning all the desks. It wouldn't be very socially acceptable to do that. And that's why self-management is so important, because when someone is feeling angry, they need to be able to learn how to channel that anger in an appropriate manner. This slide talks about some of the findings that the National Standard Project has found. There have been about 31 articles that show the benefits of teaching self-management to those with autism, particularly in the age range of 15 to 21 years old. Some of these skills that have been increased are academic performance, interpersonal skills, self-regulation, and communication. And the negative behaviors that have been decreased are maladaptive behaviors, such as the example that I gave earlier. So how do we teach self-management? Well, first you have to make sure that the individual is able to do each part of any certain activity. So to our right we have a picture of boiling some ramen. So does the person know how to turn the knobs on the stove so that the water will boil? Can they tear open a packet of ramen? Can they drain noodles? Things like that. It's important to teach each separate part of how to make ramen and be able to reinforce those simple steps before you begin the teaching process. So following each step, it's important that the individual evaluates the performance and truly understands what each step takes. This is done by helping them understand what successful completion of any part of the task is. So when you're heating up the water for the ramen, wait for the wait for the water to boil. You could have a checklist or something similar to show the steps. And prompting and feedback can be useful, but each time the task is completed, there should be reduced feedback so that the person is becoming more independent. So who does it work for? The National Standards Project shows its effectiveness for behavioral modification with individuals with autism. It can be especially effective in classroom settings where there's a lot of restricted behavior. It's not natural for us to sit in a chair for hours on end with intense focus, especially in listening. But most people are interested in regulating themselves better because this is how our education system is set up. So, some examples of self-management include, so the National Standard Project gives an example of teaching a young man to stop tongue-clicking behavior by establishing self-monitoring skills. It's also important to be able to know how to go to the grocery store and buy food for the week. And if the person is a student, then completing a homework assignment on time without outside intervention is also a vital skill to have. And that is actually the end of our presentation. I hope you learned something about self-management today.